guys, welcome to Dreamcatcher Financial Solutions Online. So first of all, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to all of you out there that have been subscribing to our channel. So here's, make sure you hit like, subscribe, all that good stuff. So, and then those of you who are visiting on our website, we welcome you again. So today I'm going to talk about a few things, and I'm going to ask my wife some questions about basically financial well-being in Indian country. So let me introduce my beautiful wife, Stephanie Allison. Welcome.
Thank you.
Awesome. So we have a couple questions. I have a couple questions I want to ask you. And we kind of had a discussion about this a little bit. So our first question I want to talk about is, in Native America compared to America in general, the average income, and we Googled this, and it would differ. It probably differs from who you ask, but the average income is $88,000 per household. Mm-hmm. Now that's throughout America. Now in Indian country, the average income, based on your experience in 9 years, what would you say is the average income for a Native household throughout Indian country?
So somebody that's working, good morning by the way, somebody who's working is making about $35,000 a year. So if there's a two-parent household, it's about $70,000 a year. That's the average income. It's well below the national average in Indian country. Okay,
so wow, so $88,000 is the average for all of America. But in Indian country, it's around 70,000. Now, let me ask you this. What would be considered middle class in Indian country, and what would be considered middle class outside of Indian country? Is there a difference? Would you say there's a difference?
Yes, definitely. When we're talking about Indian country and what we are doing in Indian country, middle class in Indian country would be about $100,000 to $150,000 threshold, but here in the major urban areas and nationally, $150,000 to $200,000 would be middle class income.
Wow. So would that defer to or people that are living in urban areas, like natives that have left the reservation that are living in the cities now?
Yeah.
Awesome. So let me ask you, have you met a Native millionaire?
Yes. Less than probably the 10 fingers that I have.
So less than 10 Native millionaires. And how many people would you say you've met being in the business for almost 9 years?
Thousands.
Thousands?
Yes.
But you've met less than 10 Native millionaires.
Yes.
Let me ask you something. Those millionaires that are Native American, what would you say separates them from people who are not Native American or people who are not millionaires?
I would definitely say that they started early for the most part with having their financial goals and financial objectives. They don't use their friends and family and their recommendations from their friends and family. They actually work with a licensed professional. They really take their discipline and their habits very seriously, and they diversify. So they're not just in one employer plan, they actually diversify. And they just stay consistent with their financial discipline of how they distribute their income into what their wealth building.
Absolutely. So is there a mindset part of this? What makes somebody who, like you met a Native millionaire compared to somebody who's, like we said, we talked about middle class and throughout Indian country. Is there a different mindset from the folks that are considered millionaires wealthy to those of us that are average?
Yes, definitely. There's a big difference in the mindset for a Native American millionaire. They're really open to taking a little bit more risk, but at the same time, they don't live a paycheck to paycheck lifestyle. They are out there trying to figure out what works best for them and always just working toward the next 5, 10, 15 years. They think long term, they don't think short term. They're not a get rich quick type of individual. They're always thinking about ways they can diversify themselves and distribute what they're bringing in into different areas and how they can accumulate that over time. So they're really long term thinkers, and they don't take a lot of time to make a decision. That's one of the things that when I'm sitting with the family, a lot of fear comes into play, and because they're not sure. And And that's fair. But, when I talk about a millionaire and sitting across from them, they make immediate decisions. They don't sit and think about it for a day or 2 days or a week or even a month. They think of that time delay as losing money. So they're always just thinking, okay, well, if it doesn't work, that's okay. I'm going to make it up in this way. So they're always constantly thinking forward and having that mindset of wanting to make sure that they're not so fearful when it comes to money. They make money work for them, not them working for money.
Absolutely. That's awesome. Can I ask you, without naming names, of course we're not going to name any names, but these folks that are millionaires, they have saved up, accrued, or earned $1 million. What industries are, or what do they do for work?
Oh, that's a great question. So most of them are business owners. They're either ranchers, so they ranch and they farm, and they've made that work for them, or they're business owners. So some of them are in tourism, some of them are in consulting, some of them are in, running their own operation as a business. And sometimes I think we think that business owners are self-employed. They're not self-employed. They don't work on their business every day. They have people working for them and with them. So they're very much business owners.
All right, last question. Can somebody, and this is not to demean anybody, but the average person that lives on the reservation, works a job on the reservation, let's say maybe at a hospital, maybe at a school, maybe at one of the, the private sector, like a Bash's or, like a retail, I don't know. But somebody, the average Native American that lives on a reservation, maybe even the average Native American that lives off the reservation, is it possible that they can become that wealthy?
Yes, of course. They just have to have some discipline. So I'll tell you about one of the women that I really admire and how she's been able to live on the reservation and just really build wealth over time. So she started young. She didn't start in, her 30s, 40s, 50s. She started when she was in her 20s. So she had a normal everyday civilian job, and she worked on the reservation, commuted to her employer on the reservation, and she was just disciplined. And I sat down with her and I asked her, how did you accumulate these areas of your wealth? So she's a homeowner. She has investment property, she has her investments, and she also has her liquid accounts. So when she was talking to me, she said, all I did was to make sure that I was living within my means and making sure that what I was bringing home, a third went to my household expenses and went to my travel, my everyday, things that I do and that I enjoy, taking care of my family, my grandchildren. I make sure I only live on a third of my income and live within my means. And she created boundaries also with her family, that if she wasn't able to give something to her family at that time, she didn't necessarily say no. She just said not right now, because she wanted to stay within that third of her budget to make sure that that's all she was using. The second third was putting that into investments and making sure that she had some long-term thinking. This is in the form of retirement, in the form of really strategizing some investments where she's just making money work for her. And then the third portion went into home ownership and owning some real estate. And she became a real estate investor, and she's doing really well. So yes, definitely, we can definitely build wealth with our everyday 8 to 5 jobs. We just have to have discipline, and we have to have boundaries within what we're doing for and with others. Always put yourself first, and that's what she said. I always put myself first. I love my family, but without me, I can't give to them as much as I want to give to them if I'm not.